Why do people work for you guys? What's the big reason?
They want to be better people, money, and it's cool.
Culture encompasses almost all of that. If anyone is looking for any sort of family type environment where they can also go make 100 grand.
This is it.
We provide financial stability, and then we provide a family type culture. It's the whole package.
What's up, you guys? Thanks for tuning in to the Purpose Driven Persuasion podcast, where if you're a highly ambitious person, you're going to learn how to go from being unfocused to unstoppable, and specifically by applying the tactics, strategies, and learning from the results of persuasion and influence demonstrated at a high level. What that means for you is by applying the things we talk about in this podcast of sales skills or persuasion and influence, you can become the most persuasive, influential, and impactful version of yourself and better serve the people around you that you love and care about the most. I'm your host, Hayden Schaap. For the last 10 years, I've obsessively tried to learn, apply, and teach these skills of persuasion and influence at the highest level, and have seen incredible results in my own life and the people that we've worked with, and that's what we're talking about. Give us a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, check us out on all of the audio platforms as well. Make sure you follow for more. If you get some value out of this, I'd really appreciate if you shared it with somebody else as well, because I think a lot of people could benefit. Enjoy the episode, guys. I wanted to start off with this is like, why do people work for you guys? What's the big reason? And you said three things to me that were just like, one word.
They resonate. Okay, so they want to be better people.
Yeah, money.
They want to be better people. Money, and it's cool.
Yeah. Money.
Can you add anything to add?
Yeah, I feel like
I think that's it.
I feel like culture encompasses almost all of that. Because yeah, if I were to just give anyone an elevator pitch as to why they should work for us, it's just because the culture is like insane. Like it's literally unmatched. Like if anyone is looking for any sort of family type environment where they can also go make 100 grand.
This is it.
Well, yeah. You and I have talked about this before, I think, or I think you specifically have like talked about like why do people stay where they are? Like why do people feel where does loyalty come from like an organizational standpoint? And I can't remember all the things that you talked about, but it was like, okay, financially, like it needs to make sense financially, right? They need to have security financially.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
They need to like feel like they're a part of something that is pushing them to get better as a human.
That's actually what Covey points out, is that we have basic needs and they can be categorized into four things. Because Maslow basically stated that the highest need of any human is self-actualization. But when he was on his deathbed, he actually wrote a book before he knew he was going to die. He started writing this book that didn't get published until after he was dead, where he basically confessed that he had discounted a higher need than self-actualization, which was in essence like leaving a legacy or like a service and perpetuation of self through generations and legacy, which is really interesting. But so then Covey, he uses this as a segue to say, okay, there's four categories of human needs. The first one is to everything you need to live, like the base instincts of living and the base needs of living. So that's actually financial is under the live category. It's the lowest. And it's odd that we put finances as the first thing, but typically because we're working with people who maybe didn't grow up with a ton of money at first, right? But to live encompasses food, shelter, clothing, and essentially that. The second one is to love. So we have a basic need to be in relationships with people and to feel loved. The third one is to learn, or maybe I'm getting those two mixed, but learn and love are either second or third there. To learn is like this psychological need to grow. So, and the need to be validated and affirmed by others, which kind of goes into love, but learn is there too. And then the last one is to leave a legacy. So we have these four categories of needs. Everybody has them. And Covey's thesis is that if people will seek out a place for those needs, no matter where they are, and it's not always in the same place. And so if you can build an organization that meets all of those needs, then that's what creates like the ultimate loyalty from your employees.
Yeah. So I guess.
Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Let me know how this like stacks up then, because my thoughts was basically, okay, we provide financial stability. I mean, stability is really conservative, right?
Yeah.
Beyond people's wildest dreams, right? And then we provide a family type culture. So like people can feel a part of a family type of organization where they have brothers and sisters.
Yeah,
right?
Relationships.
Yeah. Deep heart, like tight relationships where people are there for each other, but then also competitive and pushing each other, right?
Sure.
And then and then on top of that, they are given a set of values upon which they need to then live, are pushed to live. But does that make sense? So like people, you can have none of those three or all of those three and you feel at home.
Yeah.
But it's more than just feeling at home. It's everything. It's the whole package, right? You feel at home and you're financially comfortable and
you're meeting base financial needs and far exceeding them. And then you're a part of a culture that really allows you to feel like a brotherhood and a unity, a family type of culture. And you guys have male and female that work for you. So it's like full family culture there. So that really meets that like need to be loved and feel a part of something. And then the really to learn encompasses spiritual and physical growth. And so when we help people connect with a deeper set of values, that's what we're doing, is helping them grow psychologically, mentally, spiritually.
Because we basically tell people when we give people offers, we tell people like, it actually doesn't matter how much you care about these set of values, like integrity, gratitude, hard work, making commitments, sales skills. It doesn't matter how much, especially the top two, right? Integrity, gratitude. I don't care if actually all you care about is the money, because that's all I cared about when I first signed on. And it was like drilled into me. It was beat into me by Jason, right?
Yeah.
And so that's my job is to do that the same for
the
you.
other values were beat into you by Jason.
Right. All the values were. Yeah. But especially integrity and gratitude.
Right.
I didn't care necessarily about, I was more, okay, sales skills, that makes sense, right? We gotta make money. But integrity and gratitude being the top two seemed like, yeah. I mean, this is just, like PR stuff. But for our position now, it's really important to then be pushing people regardless. Obviously the ideal is that people sign on for those reasons, but that's just unrealistic.
So regardless,
it's regardless of the reason people sign on, that the reason they stay are those, because that's how it's been for us. I mean, fundamentally, like outside the door-to-door industry, right? I can't think of another company, like not a single other company comes to mind that provides the type of top-down pressure for me to grow as a person, and then to also then provide that for the people who I work with.
Yeah.
Like outside of door-to-door, I'm talking any industry. Where do I find that? Right? I think that in and of itself is rare. And so that's what we try to if that's what's rare about this, then we got to execute on it better than anything else.
Yeah, it's a huge differentiating. It's a huge point of parity or differentiating feature of the company that's actually so pivotal. What do you think about all that?
Well, no, I think it's more too than just like hitting people's basic needs. I think it's looking at all of those areas and then trying to exceed as much as you can. Yeah. Because if you can meet those basic needs, sure, you can build an organization and it can meet people's basic needs. But like, if you're going above and beyond on every single one of those categories, that's when people are never leaving.
Yeah. For sure. So, and you guys saw that. I mean, you had almost 100% of your people return that finished the sales season, right?
Yeah. Every single person that we gave an offer to.
Oh, yeah. And as of last week, 100% of those people.
Yeah. No, yeah. What was I going to say?
Can I talk about what you just said?
Go ahead, real quick. No, I was just going to say, I feel like that's one thing that we've really created is this idea that what we have here is like exclusive. And people really, really feel that. So it's not just like, oh, like I'm a part of this cool organization. It's like, no, I get to be a part of this cool organization that not a lot of people get to be a part of. I mean, I literally, we'll sit down with people our first time meeting them and we never go over pay scale or numbers or any of that. My only goal for a first meeting with someone is just to see if they're even a good fit for the job. And I'm very open about that. And I'm open about that because I've straight up like turned people away. Like I've straight up just been like, you know what? Like I don't think this is actually a good fit. And so the fact that like, I think that differentiates us a lot from the vast majority of the sales industry is like, most companies are recruiting and we'll just take
anyone.
If you're breathing, we'll take you. You know what I mean? But for us, it's more like, no, we want people that are generally aligned in vision and goals. Doesn't mean they need to be like a clone of each other, but if they're generally holding the same set of values and the same things kind of attract them to this, then I find that it's a lot easier for us to like maintain a culture where people are just excited and hyped and like everyone gets really, really close because everyone's shooting for the same thing. Yeah. Then at the beginning of the summer, in those first few weeks, we quickly identify who isn't that mold, and we'll just nip that in the bud, send those people home. And then for the last, 3.5, 4 months, you have a squad who just can't help but get really, really tight. And as everyone focuses on the core value, this is the irony about the whole thing, is the money's great and everyone thinks a ton about the money, but the more that people focus on character growth and becoming the best version of themselves, naturally we're going to have a really, really good culture if everyone's focused on that. And if we have a really, really good culture, naturally everyone's going to end up making way more money than they could anywhere else. Like actually. So that's kind of, I feel like that's, if you want to call it like our model of identifying people to recruit and weeding people out.
I love that.
Well, it's looking for the similar
awesome
blueprint.
All sales offices are, we say we have a family culture, like a family. All sales offices are family. Like it just depends on how.
Not all families are created equal.
Yeah, it depends on how dysfunctional.
Some families
choose to be as good as others.
And it just depends on how dysfunctional the family is, right? I love when you said that. So like that's how we believe it. If your sales office is a tight knit group who again, all sales offices are gonna like have their in-house scuffles,
dramas.
It just means everyone's close in my mind, right? It means everyone's comfortable enough to have drama.
Well, exactly. And like if you're vulnerable enough to be dramatic, I guess, then it sounds like you're on a good, at least that's one part.
Exactly. But like David said, that's crucial in creating high performance.
Yeah, massive. Yeah, which you guys did this year. And the impressive thing for me to watch was people who didn't necessarily do very well the previous year in your guys' first round of like team leading, but when you really like owned the culture for your own office, coming out of Atlanta, going to Las Vegas, like there was something so unique about that culture that it made people who didn't do super well the year before do incredibly well this summer. Like increase their revenue by 2, 3, 5x, which that's for me, that's incredible. It's impressive. And it's a testament to how powerful that culture is. Cause again, it's like what you were saying, David, money is just a downstream thing of culture. And when that culture embodies values that are really true principles, like when you build it on that and you have a family really tight knit, like willing to do whatever to win and help each other win, that type of culture, the downstream effect of the money is massive.
Yeah.
So I think that's really powerful. So you guys are brothers. How old are each of you and how far apart?
I'm 23. Hyrum's 25. So we're
2 years apart.
Like a year and a half. Yeah.
How, okay. So how is it weird being in business together as brothers?
I was just
talking. I've worked with all of my brothers in this business, but I'm curious from your guys' perspective.
We were just talking about this the other day, and I was just expressing how crazy I feel like it is how the stars aligned with this. Because growing up, like Hyrum and I, we were like really different. I think when we were younger, we kind of did everything together because we were close enough in age, and we'd play sports together and all of that. But then high school, middle school, just through the teenage years, I feel like there was a point where we were like going to different high schools, like just very different friend groups, very different people. And so then we went and served like our missions generally around like almost like exactly the same time.
Also very different.
Yeah, very different mission experiences. But I think, I wonder if that was kind of what brought us closer together, was going through that experience
at the same time
together.
Because you were in Italy.
I was in Vancouver, Washington.
Vancouver.
Yeah.
And Milan or Rome?
Rome was so interesting because obviously completely different experiences culture-wise.
But the fact that you were doing it at the same time.
Yeah, but like we also found that we would, whenever we'd email, which was like
once a month,
maybe 5 times the entire mission.
I email you once a month.
Wait.
It was pretty rare. I feel like it was even less than once a month. I feel like there was a 6 or 7 months period of just radio silence.
Yeah,
like
probably.
nothing.
Yeah.
And I remember I emailed you like after a while, or one of us emailed each other, or maybe we sent each other a voice message, and we're talking about just our beliefs on the mission. I mean, how church begin, like baptisms and stuff, right?
Production. I don't know what you want to call
production.
that. Whenever I'm in podcasts, I'm trying to stay like agnostic and not be like the Mormon kid talking. So like, so listen, we had these goals, right? It's like the production goals.
Yeah. And my leadership was pushing me to.
Yeah,
it's like the leader of my organization.
My organization.
Who was 50 years older than me.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yeah. So this one time when I was leading the organization,
it's so funny. But anyway, the point is just that we found like that we connected. Like it was like, oh, okay, like we're actually on the exact same page when it came to like how we viewed the experience.
Yeah, interesting.
And our kind of theories and our desires and what we felt a lot of times people took for granted or people didn't fully appreciate or push.
Yeah.
Like other people also go to the experience, other missionaries, right?
Sure.
And which was so interesting is like fundamentally, I mean, we're raised by the same parents, so I guess that's gotta. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, from a value standpoint,
leak
typically
in a little bit.
You tend to value the things that your parents maybe not taught verbally, but that they valued. And
that they embodied. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know. David approached me. This is I guess we're just really different, but we're open-minded enough to like understand. We're open-minded enough, and because we're related, we have to come to a win-win, or at least a compromise if it's not a win-win.
Sure.
On all aspects, because like turning around and never speaking to each other again is not actually an option. You know what I mean? Sometimes it is with some people, but it just is. It isn't with us.
So it forces you to work things out.
Figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That combined with being very open-minded, like that's a key trait for both of us. Is like mental flexibility of like, and also there's no pride between us either. And so like I can admit if I'm wrong, and David can admit if he's wrong. Like, okay, you know what? Yeah, what you're saying makes sense. Let's do it your way. There's
you're both really strong-willed though. So how does that? Like, how do you combat
years of winning? David just gets used to it.
Yeah. How do you combat the strength of will, which can maybe sometimes be perceived as like stubbornness or pride, if people were to look at that trait kind of in a vacuum?
Yeah.
How does that balance itself with like this humility of being able to accept when things are not right and change them quickly, and not being so emotionally attached to that, if that makes sense?
I mean, we've definitely had like our arguments and times where like we both feel really strongly one way or the other, and that causes like a disagreement. And
that's the one you were talking about last week. Just kidding.
Yeah, like that one.
No. What?
Nothing. Anyways. No.
Oh, when you said that about the thing with you hate that one.
Yeah, that one.
Bjorn, what the frick, bro?
He just gets mad at Bjorn.
Are you ambushing me?
No, so what was I gonna say?
I'm trying to cut you off on purpose so you have to remember everything you say.
No, I feel like the one thing that has helped us overcome that is that both of us are so aligned on what we want. And so the end goal looks the exact same for both of us. And because we both understand so clearly what that looks like, then that overpowers any pride in it should be done this way or it should be done this way. We're both, the mindset going into those, even if they are arguments or they get a little bit heated or whatever, the mindset is what's going to give us the best ROI. Like what will give us the best results, what will help us win at the end of the day. And so if we're both like approaching it from that lens, then I think we can't fail. Even if we do have like disagreements or we get in a heated debate every now and then, it's like, at least I know that Hyrum at the deepest level just wants to win just as bad as I do. And so if I know that, then there's room for me to be able to step back and say, okay, obviously I know he wants to win really bad. So obviously there's got to be something here that he's saying. And I think it's the same vice versa.
That trait is something I've found with every like hyper successful person I've ever met. They have this ability to like completely abandon things in the short term if they're not working to get their long-term objectives. It's like they're so much more long-term focused on outcomes than people who aren't successful. So in pursuit of those long-term outcomes that they're just 100% attached to, they'll do anything they need to in the short term, including abandoning if something's not working, right?
Yeah.
So they're not stubborn about being right in the short term. They're just trying to get results. And if they're not getting those results that are going to lead to the long-term objectives, then they abandon them and try something new.
Yeah.
Or they refine and perfect if they feel like they're onto something. What I'm hearing as you guys are talking is like the key trait here, if you're working in a partnership, to make that partnership successful is you both have strengths and weaknesses, but if you can get aligned on the long-term objectives, then there's no worry about what's going to happen in the short term because it'll all work itself out.
Exactly. And I think it's trust that the other partner cares just as much as you do
about those long-term objectives.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then would you also say the
committed.
values as well? Like that you care as much about the long-term objectives and you're kind of operating on the same set of values too. It's like you're not willing to betray your integrity, or you're not willing to, lie to a sales rep in order to get them, like stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't know, Hirum's a little sketch sometimes.
I don't know. I've never thought about that. To be honest
me
with
neither,
you.
honestly.
Maybe I just take that for granted.
Well, it's
but I
almost
haven't
like
put
these
thought into
operating
it.
constraints that are like always at play. In like a really good partnership is like, you don't really get into business with someone that you don't share values with at the end of the day. Even if those values are just only making money sometimes. I'm not talking about myself personally. I mean, people will go into partnerships thinking that's all they actually want, realizing that both people are operating on the same set of values, but that is really bad if making money is the only constraint in that set of values, because it leads to a whole host of other problems.
That is true, actually.
You see what I mean?
Yeah. And that's interesting because I feel like, we probably have similar values because we grew up in the same home, right? But if we're kind of trying to give advice to other partnerships, right, or potential partnerships, because the company that we work for pushes these values, because as we talked about, pushes these values on us, right, and there's pressure to actually be a specific type of person, to be the ideal, right, Moxie rep. That aligns us immediately. If it weren't that, then there may be differences there, but that is the standard. So if there's no standard, then you're just going to default to whatever it is that your natural human is going to want, right? And whatever you feel like you're comfortable with,
and whatever the constraints are at that company's not willing to settle for.
Right, exactly. When there's no, exactly. When they're not pushing anything, when it's just kind of like a poster on a wall, right, that no one reads, then it's just going to be individual, right? And maybe I'm slightly more comfortable with stuff that David's not. But because it's pushed on us consistently, then that's there, and then it makes us more unified. Sure. As well. I didn't even think about that, but I think that definitely could play a part. Cool. To be honest with you, I think the biggest thing is, like David and I are crazy different. If we were two alike, it wouldn't make sense to be in a partnership. But
exactly.
Right. But if you're too different, then you're not going to be able to find middle ground on stuff. Right. And so literally the number one thing is just, you've got to be open-minded and you've got to be able to set your pride aside and be able to look at something, empathize with someone's point of view. Like that's got to be the number one thing. Yeah. That I would say. If you don't have that, and if each person doesn't have that, then I don't think the partnership's going to work. After having done this for the past year, for what little experience we've had.
And speaking for myself with this,
I guess 2 years, huh?
Yeah. Two. My two big examples of how this is true just in other aspects of life is, one, my wife and I, so we're very different people. But because we are operating on the same fundamental values, we share those values, and we have very clear like objectives for who we want our family to be long term, and like our contribution in that family, but also to like society and community and church and things like that. Those two things are actually the only commonalities between the two of us. So like those are, and I mean that in a very like real way. They're the only real commonalities that we have. But most people, when they go into like a relationship or looking to get married, they're like, how can I find, it's funny because they're not really saying this, but it's how they act. Is like, how can I find someone that likes everything that I like? That's the exact same person as me, basically. Yeah. And they think that they want to find someone with shared values, but that's not what they're actually doing. They're like, oh, I like to go to the gym. I'm going to try to find someone that likes to go to the gym too. Or I like to play chess. I want to find someone that plays chess too. Yeah. And maybe you meet that person doing the things that you enjoy, but I think partnerships are way better actually when almost the only thing that you share is the shared values and the long-term vision. Because then that means that you are way better together, because your strengths can multiply together to make something, far greater than what you could each do on your own. I mean, you do a simple math equation. Let's say I have 10 strengths and Sarah has 15 strengths, but if they were all the same, then that wouldn't really.
What's the point of partnering up?
15, yeah.
Yeah, but if there was,
what are you gaining from partnering up?
Right. So let's say 5 of them we shared, then that's like now we have 25. What is that? Now we have 20 strengths total, right? Right. But if we don't share any of those strengths, maybe, then now we have like 25 strengths total to operate off of. Then the output of that is just going to be much greater. Yeah. Right. And not only that, her strengths are going to compensate for my weaknesses and vice versa. And so the power of being able to cooperate and work well together in partnerships is so strong if you can have shared values and a shared vision.
Yeah, assuming those two things, that's the power to do that is necessary because either you're too much alike and so that power is not needed because you're just the same person, you're getting along regardless. Yeah. You're gonna have the same opinions. At that point, it makes no sense to even be a partner anyway.
Yeah, there's no other point of view.
Right. So the whole point of being a partner is to get someone different from you, which means it's crucial to be able to work together and have that kind of correlation to find middle ground. Because if you don't have that, then you're screwed. Yeah. Right. The only alternative is to just get someone who you're going to agree with all the time. So you don't need to be like that. Right. But at that point, just do it yourself.
Just do it yourself.
They're not providing you any value.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
That's cool. I actually, before going into this, hadn't really thought of it that clearly, but that's like really fascinating. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. I haven't thought about it either.
How do your sales reps feel about you guys like working with brothers as their leaders? Is that like
I have no idea,
because I sometimes think of this like, okay, is it like a family business feel where it's like, oh well, these two are just in business together because they're brothers, like of course they would be, or like is there, do they see it that way? Is it
they see us as mom and dad?
Who's mom in the relationship? Dude, you're good, better.
It's definitely a mom.
It's actually really funny because we just balance each other out so well that there will be times where it's kind of a joke, honestly, among the reps who like know us well enough. I remember there's a point last summer where I kind of got up in front of everyone and I was just feeling like really grateful for the chance that we had to work with so many like incredible, young people. And I was just kind of expressing that. And I was like, hey, seriously, there's like no other group that I would rather be working with. And like, I love you guys. And then everyone's like, oh, like whatever. And then I think it was Marcus was like, Hyrum, how do you feel about us? And Hyrum just got like really like awkward.
Say it, Hyrum.
Yes.
Say it, Hyrum.
You love
I love you, Hyrum.
Do you love us?
Do you love us, Hyrum?
Yeah, it's like funny. I just read this part in 7 Habits where Covey he's like goes out he takes his kids on like a daddy-daughter date type of thing, but he did it with multiple of the children. And one of them was really cold, so he wrapped him up in his coat on the way back to the car. They were walking back to their truck. He put him in the truck. And then there's the older child who saw it, and after they went back home, he's like tucking his kids in for bed. And the child who watched his dad wrap the one in the coat and bring him to the car, he's like, Dad, if I was cold, would you give me your coat too? Like seeing how he treated his one son or one daughter and saying like, is that how you would treat me as well? It's not quite the same as what you guys are saying, but it's funny because it's like, does Hyrum love us as well?
Yeah. It's actually kind of funny. Cash will take issue with this, but I kind of married someone who's kind of similar to David. I don't know what that says about anything. That's just a fact.
This is a fact.
It's just a fact. Yeah. No
Why would you
implications.
think it's you with that?
I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest.
I don't know how I feel about it.
I don't either.
In retrospect.
I actually don't know how I feel about it.
It's
Factually speaking.
Yeah. Anyways.
Oh, jeez, dude.
That's funny.
I don't even know why that's funny, actually. Like, legitimately, but it's funny.
Because the implication that it could be, I don't know, attracted to David on some level. I think that's probably why.
Thanks for spelling that out.
Yeah.
Oh. So when I was 21 years old, I had big dreams of a few things. Becoming a millionaire by the time I was 30, that was a big goal of mine. I wanted to own my own business, and I wanted to create financial freedom through investing in real estate, startups, any other type of vehicle that would give me passive income so that I could really provide for my family and my parents in a significant way because of how much they sacrificed for me growing up. I didn't grow up in the most well-off household, and so I really wanted to create a life for my family that they could be comfortable. I'm a grandchild of immigrants, and I had a lot of people in my life that came before me that have sacrificed a ton to create the good things that I have. I wanted to create financial freedom so that I could give back and serve significantly. I thought I was going to do that by, first off, playing football in the NFL. I obsessed over football growing up, but then I quickly got cut from my college team upon arriving, basically. So then I thought I was going to do that by getting into a prominent business school and excelling there, and then, getting a high-paying job out of college. And I didn't get into any of the business schools that I applied for, and there were more than one. So I had some, learning disabilities and a couple other things that felt like held me back in that way. Bottom line, it just didn't work. So after all the failed attempts to make money and try to achieve my dreams early, I was basically desperate and just really didn't think that it would all work out. I was doing a bunch of these hourly jobs and barely making ends meet and donating plasma, all the things you do when you're a poor college kid. I had a friend approach me and say that he had made $50,000 doing a sales job during the summer in between semesters. And he was a really well-known and highly prominent athlete. I had grown up hearing about how good he was at football. And so we became friends after I got home from a mission for my church. I just trusted him. So I looked into it. I ended up doing this sales job thinking that it would just be a better way to hold me over while I really figured out how I was going to provide financially for my family and really make a big dent in my dreams. Fast forward a few years later, I was with the same company doing that job over and over again while I was going to school, making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and now coaching and teaching other people how to do the same thing. It completely changed my life in a way that I did not expect, learning how to persuade and influence people at a high level because you practice that day in and day out. That translated over into every other relationship and aspect of my life that I care more about than just sales. And then obviously financially being able to get well ahead of all of my peers and the other people who were not willing to make those sacrifices of doing that sales job during the summer in the off months of school. And then fast forward even more ahead, I was able to become a millionaire by 26 and have a multiple $1 million net worth by the time I was 30, upwards of $10 million plus, and invest in real estate early on in my 20s, be able to give back and help pay for mission trips and do service opportunities that I just otherwise wouldn't have had. But what I'm most proud of is being able to give my family, my parents, my wife, my immediate family the life that they just really never had growing up. Because I think deep down, we all want to be the type of people that when all is said and done, we actually have made a difference in other people's lives. And I feel like that's actually really the deep result of what this job ended up doing for me in a way that I just did not expect. Long story short, I'm obsessed with teaching the same things to other people. And since I have gotten to management and now I'm a partner in our company, I've been able to work with upwards of over 1,000 sales reps who are young, ambitious, college age kids mostly, who start doing this job just to pay for school, but end up finding out that it's highly impactful for every other aspect of their life. So right now we are hiring and we have limited spots available to take on of people. So if you're interested, there's a link in the description of this video or in my bio. You can check that out, apply and see if you're a good fit or a candidate for this job. We have personality profiles that can match you with income and earning potential that is very much historically accurate of people that have gone in our program before. And if you take the leap of faith and at least learn about whether this could be a good fit for you, I think you're going to be not only really impressed, but if your results are even half as good as what everyone else has gone through this program has experienced, the only problem that you'll have is that one, you didn't know about this sooner, and two, that you didn't sign up and try to do it yesterday. All right, so give it a shot. Check out the link in my bio, and I'll see you guys in the rest of the episode. Dude, last night, sorry, this is a side note, but did anybody else find the Navy SEAL who spoke with us last night just hilarious?
Yeah.
I thought he was so funny, dude.
I thought he was
But like no one
too.
was laughing. I was like,
It was
did
like
you just hear
his-
what he said?
No,
That
it's
was
the same
hilarious.
It's the
His
same thing with
mannerisms.
Jason. It's the
Yeah.
same thing with Jason.
It's
It's
like
quick. It's quick.
It's
It's
the
like
subtle wit, and he just doesn't care if anyone's
sarcastic.
keeping up.
Yeah.
You know?
And the fact that he doesn't care makes it funnier.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he's like not looking for validation. It's just
No.
like who he is. He can't help it.
Yeah, he like said something. He's like, yeah. Anyways, that fell flat. Anyways, like he just like kept
But didn't
going.
even wait. He's like,
narrative.
I guess nobody got that. That's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
above all of you. Anyways,
It's
was
crazy how
funny.
similar he was to Jason, actually.
Very. I mean, I know we don't believe very much in Myers-Briggs stuff at the moment, but
Oh, ENTJ.
ENTJ?
It's got to be, right?
Well, I mean, yeah,
I don't think he's
commander,
introverted.
like very detail-oriented operator who understands all of the moving parts in any given situation, good at motivating people.
I think he's for sure N.
It also seemed like
yeah.
100%. I also seemed like maybe this is disrespectful, but it seemed like a lot of the stuff that he was talking about, it was like he simplified everything. It was very simple.
Yeah.
It was deep concepts, but they were
But his ability to do it quickly
explained
on the
simple.
spot. Yeah.
like in his mind, you could tell that these deep concepts were very simple and straightforward, and also were just like the natural. They were easy in his mind. And
Self-evident
very
to him.
self-evident. That's perfect way
Yeah.
to describe it. Same thing with Jason. It's
Totally.
like he doesn't understand why everyone isn't doing it this way, and I feel like that would be like an ENTJ type of.
Do you think he's
He just
because
is.
of that?
They just are it. You know what I mean? They don't. And the irony is they're actually able to. A lot of times people will struggle, right? Natural talent, they struggle to like explain or teach it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The irony is they actually can dissect why they are the way they are pretty
Right.
well, and then teach it relatively well. They just don't understand how everyone doesn't do it that way because it's so self-evident. Yeah.
It's exactly how Jordan Belfort was when I like really started talking with him. I was just like, dude, he's similar to Jason in the sense. Now they're not even close to the same people at all, but he's similar to
Right.
Jason in personality, in this ability to like understand what's happening in a situation and then boil it down to like principles very quickly and easily. And that's everything from like, okay, a sales interaction and communication to like full on business, all moving parts, and just saying like, oh yeah, that's why this is happening. It's because of these three principles that are at play, you know?
Yeah,
That's really, it's just like not a common trait to have, but it appears that people who have that ability, it's just very easy for them to be in leadership in whatever they do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it is. It's because they just.
You have
Kill
to
it.
fundamentally be able to teach people how to do things,
Yeah.
replicate processes, and you can't replicate processes that work unless you understand them well, you know?
Right.
Like, there was one thing he said. So we're talking about a Navy SEAL that he's like arguably the most elite single special forces member like in the United States, all of special forces really. And like, I don't know, Jason told me a few things. I don't even think I can comment on like what he's actually doing right now, but I don't think he exists actually like on the books.
Yeah.
But so we listened to this guy speak, and man, the question was like, what, something about, I asked it, I don't remember what exactly it was though, but he gave this very simple answer that it was just like mind blowing to me. It was very profound. I need to look at what the questions were. Someone asked I didn't ask this one. Someone asked him, what's your process of gaining self-awareness so that you can evaluate yourself easily? Because that's one of his themes. The whole talk was like, SEALs have this ability to quickly evaluate why things went right or wrong. He called them feedback loops or something like that, feedback loops. And he just said, I deprive myself of the thing that I need most so that I give myself a time constraint. And that allows me to be very self-aware of like the things that I need to do accurately. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So when he was talking about like when he, like mindfulness and how being a mindful person, when you get into a situation where you don't have oxygen, for example, like that gives you this time constraint where like, I only have 4 minutes to live now. So it allows me to be very self-aware of the things that I have to do in order to like procedurally get out of that situation.
So
that blew my mind.
So he applies a time constraint to
So he deprives himself of something that forces a time constraint, which then allows him to be hyper self-aware of what he's doing to fix the situation.
It'd be so
Does that make sense?
Applicable to other stuff, right?
Yeah, and that's like, how profound is that though?
Yeah.
So, because at first I was like, where's he going with this? I don't know if this makes sense, but it clicked in my mind because, again, the question is, how do you become self-aware? And his response was like, oh, I just hold my breath underwater. It's like, why? Well, because it gives me this time constraint. I can only live for so long with my breath held. Well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, if I have a time constraint that's actually real, like I'm going to die, it forces me to be very hyper aware of the things that I'm doing. And that's self-awareness. And he said the same thing with jujitsu too, which is, it clicked in my mind why I love jujitsu actually, and why I've been obsessed with it, is because it forces this constraint of death. It simulates death and combat, which in order to not die, you have to analyze the things that got you into the situation that's near death. And jujitsu just lets you do that over and over and over and over again. It's very fascinating.
That's way interesting.
I don't know if that made any sense, but in my mind it did.
No,
I
100%.
think it did.
No, 100%. It's a very simple concept. It's very easily applicable to just random stuff too.
Yeah.
I mean, you just like, I don't know. I mean, depending on your mental state, you could just not eat, right? Until you finish a task, or not drink water until you finish a task.
Right.
And you'll finish the task in the most efficient way possible,
Well,
presumably.
dude, so you guys listen to Andrew Hyrum much?
Yeah.
He said that while he was in graduate school, one of the things that helped him most is that he would drink it was like a half gallon of water. And then, so if he needed to get a paper done, he would drink a half gallon of water, and he would not allow himself to pee before he got the paper done.
That's crazy.
But that's the same exact principle, right?
Yeah, it
it's
is.
like, okay, now I have to like very much focus on what I'm doing, and I have to be aware of what I'm doing in order to accomplish the task.
That's interesting. I heard about this a while ago, but it was like this idea of if you have kind of a decision to make and there's either A or B and you don't know what you actually want, to flip a coin and assign decision A to heads, decision B to tails. And while the coin's in the air, your mind will be like, freak, I want it to land on heads. And you'll know what it is. It's the same kind of principle. It's like, there's that time restraint. If it lands on tails and you're like, dang it, you know what the actual right decision is. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Similar concept.
Okay, so I have a question for you guys to tie this back into door-to-door sales. So this whole idea of basically doing something hard, forcing a real constraint on yourself, reveals who you really are, which helps you be self-aware. That's kind of what I take away from what we just said. How do the doors expose a person so that they can become self-aware of the things they need to change about themselves?
Can you ask it one more
You see what I mean?
Yeah, repeat it.
So how does the door-to-door sales experience allow someone to become hyper aware of the things they need to do to change as a person? Because in my mind, knocking doors, what it does is people just don't care about you. The doors don't care, right? So it forces you to see if you are good enough to gain people's trust, which in the process of doing that, it reveals all of the ways in which you don't gain people's trust, in which you suck mentally because you want to go sit on the curb or it's hot outside or whatever. So really what that's doing is it's exposing weaknesses that would actually keep you from being the type of person who could win people's trust over and over and over again consistently. Yeah. So how do the doors do
all
that?
The time. I see it all the time. What am I going in my freaking 5th year? Is that real? 4.5. My first summer's a half summer technically. I see it time and time again. Kids who come out who are traditionally hardworking. They view themselves as hard workers. Right? Yeah. And sometimes it's oh yeah, I'm working two jobs. I'm working 60 hours a week. I'm a hard worker. And then they come out of this, and then halfway through the summer, they're not where they wanted to be at, and they're struggling with work ethic. They're struggling with motivation. And not only, but it's not a thing where it's oh, I've always struggled with motivation. This is just a part of me. I've seen people who's no, just not really confused because they're being presented with this reality that is completely different from what they imagined themselves to be.
Interesting.
And they have to come to grips with that. And it's either come to grips with the reality and accept yourself for who you really are. Yeah. Or change your reality and hit and match where you previously viewed yourself. You have to actually become that guy.
Wait, hold on, back up, because you said either come to grips with reality, accept who you are, or change. But actually the two options are accept who you are, which will allow you to change, or don't accept who you actually are and pretend that you're something else, and then you quit.
Yeah,
but the problem,
you see what I mean?
But the point is,
yeah.
But the point is that
no, I actually think it's one or the other, because when someone really accepts who they are, like the doors reveal the fact that maybe they're not as good as they want to be. They're not as charismatic. They're not as mentally tough or whatever. Mm-hmm. When you accept that you're not, like, I don't see anybody actually quitting that accepts that they're that person, and because you end up wanting to change. The people that I see quit are the ones that are in denial of who they actually are.
Yeah, that is a good point.
You see what I'm saying? Because then they're like, yeah, but it's the area, but it's the person, but it's my leader. It's like, yeah, just go home, leave, because like the doors are revealing that you need to work on these things, and by virtue of the fact that you're saying, no, it's not me, it's everyone else, including the person that yelled at me today, and including the whatever, even though you could have done something about that. Not accepting who you are makes you
I think
quit.
yeah, that's true. I think there's also something to be said about frustration of what your reality. And again, I guess that is like essentially accepting who you are. But someone comes out, they think they're hardworking, they realize that they aren't working as hard as they should, and then there's frustration, like, why am I not working very hard? And then they don't have the summer that they wanted. And then they come back out the next year, determined to prove to themselves that they actually are the guy that they thought they were. Yeah. But really, what you're saying is that deep down, maybe that's how they're viewing it, but deep down, it's really just them accepting their current reality and then wanting to change it.
Yeah, and saying it is unacceptable to me if I remain this type of person.
Yeah.
I think
I see that all the time.
Well, in the best, that's what happens.
That's what happens when people struggle. Honestly, that's what I see. Is that otherwise you don't want to come out. People who don't think they're hardworking don't come out.
No,
to sell, right? And so that means pretty much everyone that struggles, that this is the situation that happens.
I think that's so key in first creations too, is understanding where you're at currently.
Will you define that? Just what do you mean by first creations? If people are watching and don't know that.
Yeah. So first creation, I mean, Stephen Covey in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People talks about this principle that everything's created twice. Yeah. So you have a physical creation, this drink here, it's physically created. There was a second creation. The first creation was the idea of what this drink looks like, what it tastes like, what color it is.
Right.
Same thing on a home, right? If you build a home, there needs to be a first creation or a blueprint of what that home looks like. You need to know what color it is, where the doors are going to be, how many bathrooms. Sure. So same thing with our goals. You can like have a goal, and the goal itself is your first creation. Yeah. Then when that goal comes to fruition, that's the second creation. So right. I don't know if I'm explaining that okay, but
no, yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, all things are created twice. I think one of the keys in first creations that is looked over is that you need to know where your starting point is. Yeah. So then you need to know where point A is to then get to point B. Because if you're creating a house and you think you already have a foundation laid when there's not, like, that needs to be a part of your first creation. So you need to first understand, like, and accept the reality. And I think that's, the summer does help you to understand where you're at. And then you can more clearly say, okay, who do I actually want to be at the end of the summer or in 5 years? Or who is this version of myself, the future version of myself? And then you can more clearly, like, create a path on how to get there. Because if you don't know where you're at, then it's like, you're not going to know where you're going. You know what I mean? So anyways.
And if you don't know who you want to be in the future, like, that's kind of our job too as leaders, right? Is and part of what I hear in what you're saying is this idea of, like, our job is to actually help them build this blueprint out for themselves. And it actually includes, who are you in the future? So now you can use that to govern how you make decisions right now.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not about doing sales or not doing sales. It's like, does the version of you in the future, is that the type of guy that quits when it gets hard?
Yeah.
Is that how you want to be known? Or is the version of you in the future the person that, like, relentlessly pursues their goals until they achieve them?
Yeah.
I think there's something about that makes people mature so fast. Whatever we view societally, like, as a society, what maturity is, it like increases that for people. Because there are people who've worked for us for a couple of years now, and I just, like,
just different people,
they
night
just
and day.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, and as optimistic as I have of a view of people and my friends, I couldn't possibly see them being in like as a potential leader before they even started. But at this point, they're now like, it's amazing the growth, not just like as a hard worker, but it's like this confidence that you can go out and achieve what you could do whatever you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, which is also clarity, because it means that you're going to do what you want.
Yeah.
Because you have the confidence to do it. And for them, that's grow an organization here. And so then they're just executing on it.
Yeah.
But the maturity, the growth that I see with those, it's just like, it's kind of hard to explain without seeing it. But it's actually my new most fulfilling and rewarding part of this job. This is like recent, of like, used to be like seeing people, you know, get better at sales, but now it's seeing people actually grow into leadership.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, that's amazing.
Well, the
Awesome.
reason why people are maturing so much is because they actually understand where they're going, or at least where they want to go, right?
Yeah.
I remember the first time when we like really started honing in on working with people on building out a vision and a goal, and like goals for themselves. And it just kind of came to me. I was like, no wonder so many people are depressed in this world. Like, actually, because people don't think about who do I actually want to be in the future. And so they're focused on the wrong things. Like, it's very classic. We talk about it all the time, but when someone's on their deathbed, they're not thinking, oh my gosh, I wish I made another $1 million. That's the last thought on their mind, right?
Or I wish I would have taken that offer to do whatever thing in college that promised to pay me 10 grand more than what I actually made.
Exactly.
It's like,
you may very well come out and make, you know, 100 grand, like multiple 6 figures in a 4-month period at 20 years old. Like, that's possible. But when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to be looking back and saying, that one summer when I like made, you know, $500,000, that was just like insane. Like, that was amazing. I'm so glad I did that. No, that's not what people care about. What people really care about is relationships, the type of person they were, what they accomplished from like a character standpoint, the things that they did to serve other people.
Yeah.
And so I think when you understand who you want to become, then it gives everything that you're doing in life meaning. And that's really my theory on like why so many people are depressed, because they don't understand who they want to become. And so day to day, they don't actually have meaning in life. They're going to work, whatever work is, or they're going to the gym, or they're going and doing these tasks that society has kind of pushed on them, but there's no real purpose behind it, because there is no real purpose behind it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no meaning for where they want to get to. So,
well, dude,
there's no
really
vision.
interesting what you're saying. It's on point, and like there's a few quotes in 7 Habits that I could point to really validate everything. The one that comes most to my mind is from Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl says, to completely validate what you just said, his theory was that most mental illness and struggles that people experience in life came from an underlying cause of lack of meaning in their lives. So he says an underlying sense of meaninglessness about life itself, which is really, I mean, I think that probably would be pretty controversial actually to like even say these days, right? It's like, how could you claim that I'm suffering from whatever mental thing, whatever mental illness, depression, you know, high anxiety or whatever, because of some underlying lack of meaning in my life? But that's exactly where those things stem from.
Yeah.
And it's like what you're saying is really the antidote to that is help people see a very clear vision of who they could be and their contribution they could have in the future.
Yeah.
And how you can really bless and serve others. Like, again, Covey talks about this too, but people on their deathbed, he calls it the deathbed literature. It's like the deathbed literature does not talk about money, positions at work, careers. It talks about like, did I actually make a difference in the lives of the people I cared about and that I loved the most?
Yep.
That literally ties right back into what we were talking about. If you're on your deathbed, there's a time constraint.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
what
do you
so
care
everything
about most?
becomes really clear. Yeah. So I
Putting
think
people into that.
Whoa.
Putting
how did
people-
we come?
Yeah, that's cool.
Putting
That's way cool.
people in that hypothetical scenario does the same thing. And that's why we get honest responses.
Yeah.
As long as you're comfortable with people, whoever you're talking to, you're going to get an honest response.
Yeah.
Those are some of the most like emotional meetings. That's what Hyrum and I literally love about this job. Selling pest
best,
control is sick, but it's something that I never thought that I would ever do. But I actually remember, well, just to share like a story, I remember on my mission, I served like a mission trip for my church. And I remember there was this time where I was teaching this group. Well, we had like a sports night with a bunch of youth. Everyone was around like anywhere from probably 12 to 16. And I remember at the end we played sports and everyone had like a great time, and I think we had like a basketball game, and then we kind of wrapped up, and I remember we kind of gave like a short message and we shared this video. And I remember sitting on the gym floor and we had the video on my iPad, like up on the stage. And I went and like sat kind of in the middle of all of these youth, and they were kind of like all gathered around, and I didn't even really know them so much like that well, but I remember just kind of like looking around and wanting so badly for these youth, because I had just been where they were, less than 5 years before. And so I remember just like wanting so badly for them. There's like two guys that were kind of like goofing off, and I just wanted so badly for them to pay attention and understand these principles that we were teaching. And in that moment, this was towards the end of my mission trip. And I remember in that moment, I just kind of realized I really want to just work with young adults or people who are similar to my age, who I can just relate to, I guess, and help through those challenges or struggles that I just went through. You know what I mean? And I never thought that would come through a job like knocking doors and selling pest control. Like, that's the last thing I ever thought would happen. But that is why I love what we do so much, is because I get to sit down with people and just say, okay, like, who do you actually want to be? You know what I mean? Who do you actually want to be? And then let's create a blueprint on how to get there. And it's some of the most emotional meetings, and it just helps people to like, it gives people meaning. At the end of the day, it gives people just meaning in life. Like, I can't think of anything more important than that.
No, there is. Frankly, I don't think there is much more important than that, especially about what we do. But it was so fascinating you that was something you decided you wanted to work with, like that demographic of people early on. Because I had a similar experience where, I felt just the same, that like, what is the demographic of people in my life that I could spend the rest of my life trying to serve, that would have the greatest impact, my drop in the bucket in the world as a whole. And I start as analyzing that, my thought process was, well,
infants.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. It's also challenging. I don't know in what world I would be able to work with like masses of like very young people to help shape and craft their habits. But my thought was like, if I could work with like ambitious people who were just young enough to not have habits solidified quite yet, and then have this experience, like refiner's fire type of experience that would solidify those habits and put them on a course, like a trajectory, a path to go greatly, significantly impact people in their lives. More so than if they would have done anything else. Like, that could be something I would give a lot to do for a very long time. And it so happens to be with what we do. It's like 18 to 25 year olds. And the problem that I feel I solve for 18 to 25 year olds is misdirection in their lives, like misdirected ambition, basically. And when you can harness that into something that's truly impactful, like something meaningful, exactly what you're talking about. And it's significant, the impact you can have.
And I think it's really easy to get passionate about helping others achieve more happiness through finding meaning in those areas, because we've seen it in ourselves. Like, what we're talking about has brought us so much meaning, right? And the fact that we are so like passionate about has brought us so much meaning in our lives that we understand very clearly and more clearly every day who we want to become. And what that dialogue when we're on our deathbed looks like, and what we've accomplished. And I think that's brought me more happiness than freaking anything else, is because I just know who I want to be. And I'm on a straight path to get there. And because that's brought me so much happiness, it's really easy to have a desire to want to share that with others and help others through that. So
that's amazing.
Too easy. I can do this with my eyes closed. It's too easy.